Tea Time Book Club.
I'm Earl Grey.
I'm Jasmine.
I'm Oolong.
And today we are really excited to do a special episode. And this special episode, we usually do things related to reading in the podcast. And this time it's going to be about actually writing your own book. And I'm just so excited about this episode because we've been actually working on our own book, but more about that later.
They work on the book and then I edit their book, which is awesome.
Yes.
Because
Jasmine,
I get to tell my friends everything they're doing wrong. And it's really fun.
Jasmine is our editor and me and Oolong are the writers. We're co-authors. And so, but more about that later. Today we are going to talk about how to get started writing, rituals for writing, 10 tips to write your book, common mistakes, what to research before writing a book. Really, and again, we're not experts. This is just from our own personal experience with writing.
And then I'm going to share some tips about editing your writing. And
how to edit your own writing.
Then also what I usually see in writing and what you can always improve in your writing. I don't know. That sounds really, really mean when I say it out loud.
Wow.
I'm like, what you do wrong.
Yeah, but it is one part of why I'm so thankful to have Jasmine as an editor is it's really hard to edit your own stuff, but Jasmine does have some experience with this, and so she's going to kind of
I'm just very opinionated, and I like to tell it to my friends.
But it's it is hard to spot your own mistakes, and so Jasmine's just going to share some tips of how to be your own editor. But, and then also we're going to share some of our favorite writing platforms, but, okay.
More on that later.
Yeah. So the number one question I think that is asked about writing in general and about a lot of things in general is, how do I start?
You just do it.
I would actually say the best strategy is to plan so you don't get off topic.
Yeah. So first, we all have our different methods, but when I first started doing writing some short stories, I did not plan, and a lot of the time, and again, not planning may be the best strategy for you. You really just need to try all of the strategies out. But when I was starting off writing, when I didn't plan, I often was really excited about writing for hours every day, and writing 5,000 words every day.
Yourself, then you will run dry.
Yeah, and then I kind of just
too much sun makes a desert.
Yeah, and then I would abandon a lot of my stories because I didn't really have a plan for them. I didn't make an outline. But for Oolong, I think Oolong, you really like just diving into it, not planning too much.
So
Oolong
basically,
has
can I talk about my process?
In her head.
Yeah.
She has this whole thing going on.
Can I talk about my process, basically?
Yes.
So, as somebody who's sort of written a 60,000 word novel before,
I think that deserves some applause.
Thank you. What was that? So basically, as someone who wrote, basically what I did, my first draft of my novel, which is the one that is currently done, I'm working on a second one, which is I basically just creating it again.
I do not think I would ever have the patience to make multiple drafts of a novel.
But that is important.
It is important, but I don't think I could ever do it.
So basically, on my first draft, I didn't really plan. I did plan. I planned a lot of stuff out, but it was mainly the characters and stuff and the main overall plot. And for little scenes, well, actually, never mind. I did plan a lot. I made a whole entire timeline of the book, but I didn't use it. And now I realize that's not a good strategy, for me at least. It may work for other people, but for me, making a whole timeline of the book is just it feels boring and something that I have to follow always. And if I change one thing, it's going to ruin everything. So what I do now is I basically think of the main plot. And I can sort of make up little specific scenes as I go along. And I can write down, I do a brain dump as well, and I think of little scenes that I want to add, because basically in my first draft I forgot to add add a ton of stuff because I just got really tired of sticking to the timeline and it felt like a chore.
Yeah. Like you're going to want to know what your main climax is going to be in a lot of situations. But you don't want to plan this may work for some people. Again, like everyone has a different strategy. But for us, at least, you don't want to plan everything down to the last detail. Because, like, when that inspiration strikes, you don't want to have to redo your outline because you got a new idea for one scene.
What I would say is I write a little bit. I don't do as much writing as I do editing, but I do write. And I think my first story, it got so out of hand because I didn't do an outline. So I just ended up yammering about stuff that was not even relevant to the plot. And then
she just did like a bunch of pirouettes. And so now she's out of breath.
Yeah, sorry guys.
You wrote a story? I want to read it.
It's really, really bad. I deleted it a while ago.
Fair.
But so I think what's nice is using, like, I don't know, this sounds corny, but, like, have you ever done, like, a hamburger outline with, like, your teachers?
A hamburger outline?
I think,
it's
I've
like
heard of that before.
the buns are, like, the start and the end. So it's like 5 sections, and you basically plan out, 1, how's it going to start? How is it going to get to the climax? What is the climax? How is it going to dissolve from the climax? And the solution.
Yeah.
So I like that. Because it gives you a lot of space to be creative, but it also sets you on, like, goals.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to do 5,000 words for my setup.
Yeah. And
I'm going to do 5,000 words for, like, the building action.
And also, I think a lot of people will, like, look up what is a normal amount of words for a novel, and it will show up as, like 70,000 or something, which is not wrong. But then they will
I would look up, like, a chart. Like, what is the normal amount for a beginner as in the age of blah, blah, blah.
Also, but, like, I also think that, you know, and then for me personally, as when I was a kid, I would look that up and I would feel so committed and restricted to doing like 50,000 to 70,000 words. And although that is the natural outline for stories, and that is like a lot of stories, and like the one me and Oolong are working on right now, like, and Jasmine is editing, like, that is how we're writing it. But we also need to remember, like, short stories
are a thing.
Yeah, like, short stories are amazing. Some of the most famous writers ever, like, are known for their short stories. Like, for example, Of Mice and Men, that's like
That's less than 5,000 words.
That's like less than 100 pages. That's like, I think it's, how long is it actually? Wait, one sec. Hey Siri, how many pages is Of Mice and Men? Okay, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Also, I love John Steinbeck. I loved The Pearl. That's my personal favorite. Has 107 pages, and it's like if you actually go and see a copy of it, like, at a bookstore or a library, the pages
It's super thin.
The pages are like really small too. They're not big pages. So, like, your story doesn't have to be like Shakespeare or something. Like, it does not have to be super long to be a masterpiece.
Yeah. And one thing to keep in mind, when you're writing, nothing will seem like a masterpiece. I'm sorry. Everything you write, you will second guess. You will always guess if you are good enough or not. Just the risk.
It's kind of just the reality of, like, being a writer. Like, the point of being a writer is to revise and look back and have second thoughts. That's literally what editing is. But it's like...
But you can hire someone to do that. You can hire someone to second guess for you.
That kind of, like... But, you know, it's... One thing is a lot of writers go down a little bit of a rabbit hole with, like, revising. Don't over-edit your book. And that is a thing. I know. It sounds crazy, but don't over-edit it, because if
you still want that, like, freeness to be in your book.
Yeah, and if you like try to find a more complicated word for everything,
Then no one will be able to read it.
okay, I'm going to put it this way. If someone who has a full college education and has taken English classes and is relatively good at like English, maybe they even majored in English, needs a dictionary to read your book, you probably
It's not working out for you.
You're probably editing a little bit too much. And I'm not saying you can't use complicated words and phrases. That's great. Just like if you're trying to write,
Keep in mind, you don't have to do it all the time.
if you're trying to write a book for a YA audience, keep in mind their vocabulary. Like, you know, don't.
What's up, bro?
That's not. Oh my god. Not like that, guys. Not like that. Just like someone
We need to
probably
lock in.
like.
If you use skibbity in your book, I will murder you.
Whoa, we all, Jasmine. Whoa, we all.
I'm just saying, like, you need to keep in mind who you're writing for. If you are writing a children's book, then a 20-year-old person should not need a dictionary to read your book.
So can I
Yeah.
talk for a second? Basically, my suggestion, if you're writing a YA book or a children's book, many people think children are dumb. Many people think that their advice doesn't matter and that, like, why
If
should
you're
it
writing-
matter?
If you're
Can I talk?
Wait, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll add on something.
But many people think that if, like, why should I get children to review my book? They're just children. They're not smart enough to have complex opinions, and they're just like read it and be like, ooh, shiny. There's candy. Ooh.
Yeah. So,
Look.
like,
But it's valuable to get advice of the people who are your target audience,
Like,
no matter how young.
So often I see YA books that like depict like teenage children, and I'm like, nobody I know who is teenage would react that way to that situation.
Oh,
So
you know,
it's important that you get people their age to like see what they think.
also, yeah, that's like one of the biggest things with like editing is
Can I have your ice cube?
yes, of course. Like one of the biggest things with editing is make sure you're getting advice from the audience you are writing for. So if you are writing for a children's audience, read it to the kids you babysit. If you are writing for a YA audience, give it to your friends to read. If you're writing for an adult audience, then get an adult to read it. It really just depends on
Don't
who
get your
you're writing
parents, though.
for. Yeah, don't get
Parents will always say, "Oh, this is wonderful."
Yeah.
yeah, which kind of makes them not very good consultants on editors.
Yeah. And so just like make sure that you're getting your first, second, maybe if you have a third draft that you're going to revise again. Make sure you're getting those reviewed by the audience that you are writing for. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind when you're writing this book is like, who are you writing it for? If you are writing, this is like an extreme example, but if you are writing a nonfiction book for an audience that wants to learn about turtles, that's random, I know, but if you're writing a
Turtles.
nonfiction book for an audience who wants to learn about turtles, you are not going to mention sci-fi Arctic polar bears. That sounded, wait, what just even came out of my mouth?
That sounds like an example that Mr. ELA teacher would give.
You're not gonna, okay, I'm just saying, if you're writing a nonfiction book about turtles, don't have sentences in there about an Arctic setting that is sci-fi that has magical polar bears. That's all I'm saying. That's an extreme example, but just make sure you're keeping in mind your audience. Yeah.
That's more keeping in mind the topic than the audience, but okay.
But
Can I mention something? How they write siblings too, like, hey bro, hey sis. Like
it's not.
Just no.
it
Yeah,
makes
it's
me
not.
want to throw the book out the window when they talk like that. Like, no, that's not how people
Like,
act.
I
ever.
never call my sister sis.
I don't think I've ever called even my sister sister while talking to her. I've never been like, hey sister, come on, let's go get ice cream. Like do you really actually I know some people might, and like no hate to those people, but I just call my sister and brother by their names. Like
Whoa, really?
like do you actually like identify your sister and brother when you're talking to them as sister and brother? Like, hello brother, let's like, I don't know, maybe
That
some people
sounds
do
like an 1800s thing.
maybe some people do it, maybe I'm just crazy,
Or, like,
but like
You're
Something in
not
the
crazy.
church.
I don't
just,
do it.
yeah, just like also if you are an adult listening to this and you write novels
For
which-
children.
for children or for YA.
And you think children are dumb? They're not.
Well,
So-
okay, well that
Children
wasn't-
are
that wasn't-
actually quite
okay,
intelligent.
that wasn't what I was gonna say. But also yes, but observe children before you write how they think.
Observe children.
I'm not.
I'm
saying
sorry,
that
that
in a
sounds
creepy
wrong.
way.
If
I'm
you,
not
like-
saying that in a creepy way. I'm just saying like if you have if you're writing a YA book and you have a teenage kid,
Observe what will happen if you take
Observe
their
your
phone
child.
away.
like if you're writing, just make sure you know how your age group is going, like how the age group that you're writing is going to react to situations. And everyone reacts differently. So that could be. Oh my god! You're just like.
I've been bouncing my knee, and it's been annoying Earl Grey the entire time.
It's one of my pet peeves. Okay.
Oh, I'll do that then. Look at my knees.
Oh my gosh! Y'all are driving me crazy. Okay, but yeah, just make sure you're aware of what audience you're writing for and you know how to write them realistically. All right, I think that is going to transition us into writing rituals. So can I go over a couple writing rituals that I've tried
Rituals?
out? Yeah, writing rituals.
Tell me more.
A lot of people are like, oh, how do I get into writing but do it on a regular basis? There are books written about this. Like, literally, I've seen books written about this. There are so many. Like, guys, just look into it. But here are a couple. And a lot of these I've heard about. A lot of these I've tried. And I'll just tell you about my experiences. My experience should not sway your experience or your, like, willingness to try it. All of these are very, like... Yeah, like all of these are methods all of these methods work for different kinds of people. So I recommend when starting writing, try out a couple different like writing rituals to see what works for you. Okay, so first writing ritual I've heard of is write 1 or 2 pages in the morning. In the morning when you wake up, you have a lot of fresh ideas. Dreams can actually be great for writing. That's another one. Keep like a notebook next
A
to your...
dream journal?
Yeah, like keep like a notebook next to your bed because inspiration can strike at the weirdest moments and a lot of times
I do that.
that's in your dreams. So that's one of the tips. Or writing rituals. Another one is when you wake up in the morning, like first thing when you wake up, write 1 or 2 pages. So I think there are actually like a lot of scientific studies behind this. I've heard about this. I've read articles about it. Like, I mean, I don't know everything, guys. Like, I'm not a professional or anything. But, that's one thing that I've heard can be really good for some people. My father, actually, he's not, like, a novel writer, but he writes a lot. And that's what he does, and it works great for him. Personally, for me, it doesn't work great for me. Not with my... Just, like, with my schedule and with the way my mind works. Okay. And another...
I don't have time to write that much in the morning.
Yeah,
'cause
and
school.
so it kind of, you are, like, writing rituals kind of are centered around your lifestyle and, like, what you have time for. So another one is writing, okay, so, like, some people need to write on a regular basis, else they abandon their project within, like, 2 days. Yeah, I don't need to do that. I can come back to a project after a week of not looking at it and, like, be ready to write it. Some people can't do that, though. So, like, definitely look in. It's a great thing to research online. There's so many different, like, studies and resources. Just try a couple things. Like, you know, personally, for me, I like locking in for, like, a couple hours. Like, I can lock in for 4 hours and write.
Like
Once,
we did that one.
like, yeah, like, but I can only do that like once a week. Other people can write 20 minutes every day. So it really just varies based on your lifestyle, based on what works for you. So yeah, that's what I have to say about writing rituals. Do you want to start? Oh
Can I
yeah,
add
of
on?
course.
Ooh,
Sorry guys, sorry.
So often, like if you have a favorite author, right? If you have an author that you like really admire and you really like their writing, and usually, sometimes if they have like a book on like, sometimes they'll have like a book on like how they write stuff or like and like their writing process and things that they do. And like if you really like their writing, maybe you should try it out. Like try some tips out from them. Also,
Okay, you just mentioned about like good authors having books about their writing process, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I really need to mention Stephen King has a book about writing, and I've only read bits and parts. So, but my dad is like really into the book. So I would definitely recommend reading that because apparently it's really good, and obviously, I mean, like you know who Stephen King is. So yeah, definitely look into like if certain authors that you like or just authors that have known to be really great writers have books about writing, because you will be surprised. A lot of them do.
Okay, and my other part is that something that I try to do but usually don't do is write like one sentence every day at least, because for people like, I mean, what I do is it in my book, like of the book, write one sentence a day of your book, which is good for people like me who like tend to, if they don't like write it for a while, they tend to abandon it, which happens to me a lot. But sometimes I just get inspiration and go back to a project that I last worked on a couple months ago. That can happen to me sometimes, but it's like sometimes if I don't work on it consistently for long enough, I can just abandon it. And like writing one sentence a day or like a set number of words a day or like page a day or something, that helps. I usually don't do it, but when I did, it helped me.
I did try that, but personally for me it didn't work. Like if I'm gonna write, I need to have a couple hours to do it, and like if I sit down to write, I'm gonna do it for a couple hours, and so I can't really do that like sentence or page a day thing. Like I usually write for a couple hours, but like it will be like one day once a week. But again, everything works different for different people.
So can I say one more thing?
No,
I know
no,
I'm
of
kind
course,
of
of
yapping
course.
here, but like if you're a student like us, which probably a lot of you watching this will be, if you have time in class where you can free write, or if there's a lesson you're bored on, but still pay attention obviously, but you can if you have a time where you're able to write during class, do that, because I find that I'm writing a book, right? Not the book that I previously wrote, but like I'm writing a different book, and it's like it helps me to like write in class because those are actually the times where I have the best ideas. And
Guys,
also
I'm
writing traditionally.
I'm not telling you guys to not pay attention in school, but like come on, math class. Like anyway though, transitioning into common mistakes in writing. We're gonna have Jasmine, our editor, do this one because she's kind of the one.
Can
who
I do
actually,
one?
Yes.
Can I do one?
Yes.
At the
but
end. At the end.
Okay. Because she is kind of the one who like looks through these common mistakes and corrects them. So yeah. So Jasmine and Oolong, take it away.
Jasmine, take it away.
Okay. So, one of the first ones that I see a lot is, I love context. Context is great. You need context in a story. Don't build too much in your context.
Info dumping, like through dialogue, and a character asks like, "Who's that?" and the other characters just like tells them like 24 pages of their backstory. It's like, no, that would never happen.
Yeah.
Sorry to
So
interrupt.
basically, context, short and sweet. Okay? You need to know the setting, the main characters, and sometimes, not always. But also, a lot of that can be revealed in your writing. You can reveal motives in your writing. You can introduce new characters. You can reveal backstories. You
need
can
to,
bring them to a new place and reveal new places.
You need to split it out a little bit, and
Your context should not be a lot of your story.
it needs.
I would say context should be
it needs
a page.
It needs to naturally reveal itself throughout the plot in small amounts. You do not want to have all of the context for your entire story on 2 pages. You want to slowly build it throughout the book.
I would say the probably only thing you need in the beginning of your story as of context is setting and main character. That's it.
Yeah,
your context should be
gradual.
It
should be gradual. So
but I like to think of it less than a page.
Yeah. And also, okay, one thing I've noticed with context is having it be gradual, especially in the middle and end of the story, is a lot of the times best, because by then
it builds suspense.
Yeah, and by then you have developed enough of a relationship with this character that the reader is going to feel empathy for them or sympathy for them when you tell them oh, their mom died. But if you just dump that on them at the very start of the book, the reader doesn't know this character. The reader doesn't feel any empathy for this character, and so kind of gradually building, because the reader, I know this might not make sense, but dropping that context later in the story is going to, in a lot of cases, be better, unless it's absolutely essential to the plot at the beginning of the story. But generally, dropping context later on kind of works better, because by then the reader has a relationship with the character and is going to feel happy for them or sorry for them or rooting for them, and so it's going to be more of an emotional point for the reader if you give that context later on. Of course, though, there's some context that is essential to the plot, essential to the story, that you need to do at the beginning. That's totally okay.
So number 2. This is gonna seem really basic and then it seem really obvious, but spell check.
I know.
Please.
Also, when they do an apostrophe for plurals, one of my former friends used to do that all the time. We used to write a ton of stories together, and she used to do that all the time. She put an apostrophe when it was a plural word, like cat apostrophe S, and it infuriated me, and I always had to go back and recorrect her spelling.
Okay, so what I would do, if you're not sure about a phrase like the cat's out of the bag now or something, and you write down the cat's out of the box, or something like that, the cat's in the box.
What?
I don't know. But if you mangle the expression, then it makes it a lot harder for the reader to understand. So search up the expressions you're using.
Yeah.
Make sure they're right, and make sure they mean what you think they mean.
Yeah, expressions are really hard, because you want to, if you're using a common expression in your reading, you want to make sure the reader knows what you're getting at. If you said don't spill the beans, I know this is kind of a common example.
Kindergarten.
If you said don't spill the beans, people will know what that means. But you need to not mess with the wording. I'm telling you, because I've read books where they mess with the wording and expressions, and so it takes me 5 minutes to actually, this might just be me, but just stick to the original expressions. And also, especially if you're writing this as a younger author who has a good vocabulary but doesn't have the full vocabulary yet, make sure the words you're writing,
words mean what you think they mean.
Yeah,
okay, if you're unsure about a word, make sure it's what you actually mean to write.
When you're writing, even if you're just on your first draft and you're going to revise it later, have a dictionary with you. It's great. Find one at your local library. Go to the library.
Nobody needs a dictionary. They have Google.
Thanks for that. Wow, thanks. You just made me look old.
Wow, you just made us
Okay,
all
you
look
made
old.
yourself
Jasmine.
old.
Okay, personally, I like having a physical dictionary, but whatever. Have a dictionary or Google with you while you're writing.
Well, if you're writing on a computer, you already have Google with you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Ooh, also, okay, guys. This video is not sponsored or anything, but our reading platform that we just recently discovered, and it's the one that we're writing our book on. Writing platform. Sorry, guys. Is Readsy. It's free and it's so good. It's not like Google Docs. Like, don't get me wrong, Google Docs is very helpful and
It's
important.
what I use for everything.
Yeah,
like writing
but it's
my
like,
stories.
but it's like, it's not meant specifically for writers. But Readsy, you can find editors on Readsy platform, like qualified editors. You can.
Hey,
Sorry.
I feel very threatened now
Okay, sorry.
that you're gonna go on Readsy and find some random editor to replace me.
We're not saying that. But for people who are looking for qualified adult editors, you can find those on Readsy. Also, it's free. Also, it like is specially designed for people writing books and novels, and so like it has like scene breaks. It has a bunch of word count features. You can set word count goals. It's easy to use, and it's specifically designed for writers. So I would definitely recommend that if you're looking for a different platform other than Google Docs for writing your book. Sorry, guys, that was kind of off track.
Are we gonna get a sponsor from them? I'm out.
Okay, we need to start wrapping it up. So, okay,
Wait,
first we're going to do 10. Yes, we do. We have 10 more minutes. 10 tips for good writing and how to edit your own writing. So,
wait, can I do how to edit your
yes.
writing?
So, Jocelyn,
Because this
do you
is
wanna-
just a few.
No, can I give my mistake?
Oh yes.
So, unless it's running too long.
No.
My common mistake that I notice people doing all the time, throwing away their old writing, which is like, it's bad to do this. For me, I find that almost like half of my inspiration, at least, comes from my old writing and stories that I wrote when I was younger, and I rewrite those stories, just like I redraw my old art, and like it like shows your improvement, like, and it's just, you should never throw away your old writing, is what I mean, because it's like, it's good to take inspiration from and stuff like that, and I don't know where I was going.
No, yeah, that's a
But
very good point.
That's not really like in the same vein as the other mistakes, but like,
No, that is like a really good point, and it's really important too, because I've definitely, old writing, you may like kind of be embarrassed of it, and you're like, oh, I wrote this when I was young, like I don't think it's good, but trust me, the ideas that you had a year ago are still very good ideas, and you might want to incorporate them in your later more present stories. So that is a really good point. And then we're also going to transition to tips from the editor and how to edit your own. Oh, sorry, sorry guys. How to edit your own story. So Jasmine, you want to take it over?
Okay.
Take it away.
So I would say one of the greatest things about editing is you can do it to yourself. But some people find it very hard to look back on their book. What I would say is, if you want to edit your own writing, if you just like wrote like a paragraph and you want to edit it, do something else. Do something productive. Do something that takes your mind away from your writing. Completely forget about your writing. Even like take a day's worth so you can go to sleep and wake up again, and then go back and look at it. Because then if you go back and look at it, you're going to have a lot more ideas because your mind wasn't actively on writing, so it wasn't stuck. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
That was kind of psychology on you guys. Sorry.
Also, sleep helps the brain process the events that happened in the next day.
Okay.
Oh God.
Okay, but yeah. Any other tips, or should we wrap it up?
Oh, one more tip. Like we said before, I was going to do this as a tip, but have people your own age read the writing, or like have people the age read the writing. Have your audience have a sample of your audience read the writing. And one more thing, always come with a perspective of, I don't know if this is like weird, but it doesn't hurt to like write a part and then use that part somewhere else than when you originally meant it and change some stuff.
Like,
that's not bad.
okay.
Lots of great writers do that.
So, like, wait. Just to
always
clarify.
know that you can rearrange your parts and that sometimes doing it will make your writing a lot better.
Yeah, just to clarify, like, what you meant was, like, if you want to write a scene and then want it somewhere else, that's okay.
Yeah. And if you want, I would recommend this. If you have a part that you're really excited to write, like, write it down and then add it in later.
Yeah. Like,
if you really want to write it.
If you're not quite there
if you
yet.
don't, you might end up rushing your writing and it not being as good as you want it to be. So always keep in mind that you can write parts
like, just to,
before they're actually happening in the book.
Like, so, like, just, like, yeah. So, like, if you're excited for, like, your climax, like, don't rush your writing just to get to that part you really want to write. Write the climax and then write the other parts and insert the climax. Yeah. Okay. We have to wrap it up, but thank you guys so much for tuning into this special episode. And yeah, we might have a little bit of, we already have all of our episodes for April, but yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great time writing. So yeah, all right, bye.
Bye.